Hey everyone, welcome to a new episode of What Are We Talking About? Our new talk series where we dive into exciting projects and ideas with researchers and scientists working in the water sector. Today, we are joined by Dr. Anthony Castronova, a Senior Research Hydrologist at CUAHSI, where he leads a team developing software solutions that connects CUAHSI's data initiatives with scientific applications. His work focuses on blending hydrologic data with software engineering, particularly in hydrologic modeling, cloud computing, and reproducible science. In this episode, we are zooming in on two of CUAHSI's flagship tools, HydroClient and HydroShare. These platforms are transforming how researchers and practitioners access and share water data. Stay tuned as we delve into CUAHSI's innovative work with Dr. Castronova. We had the pleasure of discussing this with him at the Water Science Conference 2024 in St. Paul, Minnesota.
You seems to be very busy in the conference. How is conference going for you?
Yeah, the conference is going really well. A lot of great talks and everything, but yeah, keeping busy.
Yeah. So what do you think about CUAHSI organizing a separate water conference? Because I know CUAHSI has been doing a lot of stuff in ASU too. But what is your opinion on having a separate water conference in past 2 years?
Like this one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's been exciting. So we've had the opportunity to work with AGU to kind of co-host this conference. And it's brought a kind of a unique experience because it's a bit not super unique, but it's a smaller conference, which is really pleasant. We still also host our own meeting. We call it the biennial, but this is always really nice because we're in partnership with the hydrology section.
Today we are here to talk more about the CUAHSI's data initiatives. I found it really exciting, interesting to see the HydroShare, HydroClient thing, and I have learned more in this conference as well. So can you tell me something about the CUAHSI's data initiatives?
Yeah, so one of the big things that CUAHSI does in the technical side, so CUAHSI does a number of things, but on the technical side and revolving around data, is work with the community to provide data archival and hosting solutions. And this actually goes back quite a while, I think over 20 years ago for one of our systems. But where we've had success is collaborating with the community on research projects. So we have a lot of really great researchers in the world and in the United States, and collaborating on these projects. And then when the funding cycle comes to a close, providing or sustaining these, providing life beyond that single project. So identifying that these are valuable services for the community and then figuring out a way that we can offer this into the future. Mm-hmm. And this has been true with the two most common platforms that we currently maintain. One is the Hydrologic Information System, and the other one is the HydroShare system. Both fantastic products of the funded research. That both of them were National Science Foundation funded projects, and we've been lucky to continue to provide them as a service for the community.
Yeah, so what do you think is the problem that you are trying to solve with bringing this HydroShare and HydroClient in the public?
Yeah, I think there's a number of challenges that researchers face regarding their data. I think one of the things that we aim to do is provide tools that are going to be useful throughout the research life cycle, whether you're looking for data or you're collecting it and you need to archive it, or you're working and analyzing it. But ultimately, one of the high value the high value outcomes is the ability to formally publish your data set. Mm-hmm. So in recent years, there's been this FAIR initiative, the Findable, Accessible, Interoperable, Reusable principles, and our data repositories aim to kind of provide capabilities for all of those. So really just trying to move our community in the direction of providing their research data in a fair way.
So could you explain the role of HydroShare in promoting data sharing and collaboration with the hydrologic community or the scientific community?
Yeah, I mean, HydroShare is one of CUAHSI's kind of premier services. It's been quite widely used for data publication, so that's one of the actually really interesting ways it's been used, meaning that someone might be able or can formally publish their data set, which means it's immutable, it's kind of a snapshot in time. And they can also publish their manuscript and have citations kind of cross-referenced in both of them. So you have this kind of bidirectional connection. It's one of the really cool aspects of the system. And what that enables is for someone to find a paper, read about it, and see the data citation, and then be able to directly navigate to the data citation or the data, find the data, through the citation, the DOI and the citation, and vice versa. So if you find the data set, you can do the exact same.
So what is the major difference in HydroShare and HydroClient? Because is there some is it different for the user perspective, or what is the difference there?
Yeah. So HydroClient is a web interface for a much larger network of data called the Hydrologic Information System. And that system is largely designed around time series Earth observations. So typically data that exists at a single point, it's measuring maybe a single variable or a set of variables, and it exists through time. Oftentimes these are sensors that are continuously measuring data. So in this case, the HIS, or the HydroClient or HIS system, provides a mechanism for researchers to make their data accessible in a way where you're constantly collecting data, but then also discoverable through like a map interface. So you can kind of navigate, draw boxes, and zoom in, search and filter based on variables and different other different properties. The HydroShare system is closer to a bucket where you can drop all sorts of different data into it. And so one analogy or one comparison would be, if you're familiar with Google Drive, HydroShare provides a similar kind of look and feel. We create these things called resources, which is kind of the atomic unit of HydroShare. So you create a resource, and then in that resource we drag and drop our data, or upload our data, and that data can be time series. But it can also be all sorts of fun files, interesting files like NetCDF or geospatial files, anything really. And then you have the ability to provide metadata to enhance and really describe what the data is, what it represents. That metadata is everything from simple keywords in like an abstract description to spatial and temporal metadata, and even that system has the ability to peek into some of these files and extract their own metadata. So, if it's a NetCDF file, we can extract, what variables exist in here, what's the spatial resolution of that, and all of that sort of stuff. So really helping to pre-populate the metadata. And all of that is just to make it more and more discoverable. So those are the two systems. I sometimes like to say that the HIS system is for time series observations, and HydroShare is for everything else that's water related.
So, let me talk through the user's perspective. So how has HydroClient changed the way researchers assess and utilize hydrologic data? And did you receive any feedback from researchers who have been benefited from HydroClient?
In my role, I don't have access to a lot of the user feedback in terms of how they've benefited. I can say that I personally benefited, but I'll talk about that in a second. I would say one of the ways that that system has improved the way that we're able to conduct science is by providing an entry point for a researcher to discover all sorts of data, or data from sources they maybe don't know exist. So in a single interface. So if we wanted to search for data in where we currently are located, we just go navigate from the map. We navigate to our current location, and we can just search and say what Earth data exists in this area, and we can have results, a collection of results that range from federal agencies to state agencies, and community initiatives and even advocacy groups. So it's really exciting to be able to, if you're trying to collect data for a project and you just want all available data in that region, it provides a really unique way of discovering that in a single point or a single portal. And I actually, when I was in grad school, I used that quite a bit to collect data for surface water hydrologic modeling. So we're looking for areas where we have certain variables, and sometimes we're not too picky about who's providing those. Yeah. But we do know that we can go to the USGS and find all sorts of data, but sometimes we'll find a university research group has been collecting data on the campus and where your study might be taking place, or they may have an offsite location that's of interest. So I think that's, to me, that's one of the primary benefits of a system like that.
So who are the primary users of both of these, like HydroClient and HydroShare, you think?
Yeah, I believe that the primary users are mostly academic, so researchers or faculty or graduate students. We do have some adoption from people in government. It's a smaller amount. We've really tried to explore how we can engage the general public, because these data are useful in any kind of science, communication or education. But it's a tricky one to address. And I think the nature of CUAHSI as an organization serving our community is mostly academic. It's a little bit easier for us to advertise and promote these things, and we have a little bit less of a voice when it comes to the general public. But it's an area that we're working on.
One other question in my mind is about government is actually or should be responsible for making some kind of centralized database. I personally believe that. So in this case, CUAHSI is assisting government. So is there good support from government side, like USGS and other departments? So what is your opinion on that?
Yeah. So one of the things when it comes to, we'll think about the observation data, the hydrologic information system, that provides access to data all over the world, but the data doesn't necessarily all live at CUAHSI. It could live in different places. And that's really powerful, because when you have large agencies that have the power to support their own data or archive it, we can provide access. And that access is done through a partnership. So they've been very helpful over the years to build connection points, because they're not using the same technology that some others are using. And there's good reason for that. They're operating at a much larger scale. But yeah, I think the cooperation from partners and federal partners has been very, very nice. I'm not one of the people that actively has worked on that, but yes, that wouldn't have been possible without their help.
So looking forward, how do you see tools like HydroShare and HydroClient evolving to meet the needs of hydrology research community in future?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. There's so many ways that they could evolve, and again, CUAHSI, we participate in research, but we participate in research with people in our community, colleagues. So some of these projects that we have the privilege of working on, we see some really tight connections with things like HydroShare and the HIS. Other times we see presentations. We say, okay, we've got to figure out how that'll work. But some of the areas that I see huge amounts of potential are addressing reproducible and replicable science. So making the data meet FAIR principles is one thing, but making sure that when someone publishes their data, and one of the things you can do in something like HydroShare is you can publish data alongside, and your code alongside it, making sure that code will actually run and produce the results that were published in the manuscript. It's another challenge, and it's a very active area of research, which is really cool. It's really challenging. But it's super potential. It has so much potential if we have really strong data archival and publishing capabilities, and then we have reproducibility linked into there. And we've made some strides in that area by providing cloud computing services that are linked to the data repositories, but that only addresses part of the problem. I think the reproducible science is a really interesting open question right now.
Yeah, when I heard about that, like trying to like replicate the whole thing, I think it's a very difficult task.
It's hard, yeah.
Yeah, there are many factors involved. So let's quickly switch to some other questions. So, okay, the next questions will be related to a very broad and general thing. I always ask to people whenever I go to some conferences. So as a researcher, as a scientist, as a person, what do you think is the biggest challenge of this generation?
Oh my goodness, I have no idea.
So yeah, what do you think? Like, if you have to say one thing,
the biggest challenge. I don't know if it's the biggest challenge, but one really big challenge I think that a lot of people are facing, especially those that are in school now, is just the rapid advancement of technologies. Things are changing so fast. It's hard to keep up, and as soon as you learn something, it's almost outdated.
Yeah.
So I think that would be a very big challenge. It's exciting too. It's an opportunity to learn a lot of new things, but it can also be challenging and exhausting sometimes to keep up.
Yeah. So what would you suggest in that scenario? So how to, if you have to overcome that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think attending conferences, and that definitely helps, especially ones that have a large kind of workshop presence.
Yeah.
Being able to sit in and learn about like the state of practice or the new things that are coming out are really, really valuable. But yeah, dedicating time in your professional life, your professional career, set aside that time to do a training or learn, whether that's a virtual training or something. It is that level of continuing education is incredibly important. I think a lot of times we don't value the time it takes to learn a new library, learn a new tool, because we're focused on progress or solving the problem at hand. But that ends up putting us in a disadvantage later on because then we don't know the.
Yeah. So you have any final words to people out there? It can be anything. Smile, laugh.
Yeah, have fun.
Yeah, okay, have fun.
Don't work all day every day. Take some time for yourself.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard to remember that you have a life.
Yeah. Just live your life.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
It's nice having you today.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.